Lesson 12, Part 1A, Perfect Active Indicative, regular forms. The perfect active indicative is formed like this. Perfect active indicative equals fourth stem plus alpha plus primary A endings. And it looks like this. Pepistuka, pepistukas, pepistuke, pepistukamen, pepistukate, pepistukasi. I have believed, you have believed, he has believed, we have believed, ye have believed, they have believed. The fourth stem is very unusual. It is formed using a process called reduplication. Reduplication is the repeating of part or all of a word. For the fourth stem in Greek, reduplication will be taking the first consonant of the stem and an epsilon and adding them to the beginning of the stem. So genao becomes ge, gen, ake. Krateo becomes ke, kratake. La, leo becomes le, la, lake. Notice how it's the first consonant and then an epsilon and then what was already in the stem. Deo becomes dedek. Kaleo becomes keklake. Now, notice that the alpha drops out of the stem here. That is an exception. Martyreo becomes memartyrake. Miseo becomes memisake. Pistuo becomes pepistuk. Poieo becomes pepoyake. Tereo becomes teterake. Now you'll also notice in these stems, there's almost all of these are contract verbs except for pistuo here. So all of them, they're actually deo is not either, but all the rest of these, they're contract verbs, and so the vowel in the stem has lengthened out, and then a kappa is almost always added to the end of the fourth stem. So reduplication at the beginning, kappa at the end, and of course, if it's a contract verb, the vowel will lengthen out. Now, if there is a preposition, it's not the preposition that gets reduplicated, but the actual stem of the verb. Very similar to what we've seen before with augments. Pretend the preposition isn't there, do what you need to do to the beginning of the stem, then tack that preposition back on. So peripateo becomes peripatake. This P here is the first P of the stem, not the P of the preposition, but the P of the stem. So that's what's going to get reduplicated before the stem, after the preposition. If the stem starts with a vowel, that vowel will lengthen. And no consonant will be repeated, no epsilon added. And when we get a lengthening here, alpha becomes eta, just like it did with an augment. Epsilon becomes eta, and omicron becomes omega. Diphthongs are already long, so they don't change. So agapao becomes agapake, which you can still tell, even though you can't tell that there's reduplication, you can still see that kappa there. That's going to clue you into fourth stem. Aiteo becomes atake. Eulageo becomes eulagake. We might have expected the lambda to have reduplicated here, but it didn't. Technically, in this word, eu is a preposition and lageo is actually the verb stem, or sorry, eu isn't a preposition, it's an adverb. It means good, literally good word. And so we might have expected the lambda to reduplicate, but it just doesn't in this particular word here. And as I mentioned before, notice the fourth stem also has a kappa at the end of the stem. That's going to be very helpful for identifying fourth stem. Also, remember, contract verbs have a lengthened vowel in their stem in all stems but the first stem. So summary, perfect active indicative equals fourth stem plus an alpha plus primary A endings. Reduplication is the repeating of all part or all of a word. For the fourth stem, reduplication will be taking the first consonant of the stem and an epsilon and adding them to the beginning of the stem. For reduplication, if the stem starts with a vowel, that vowel will lengthen. The fourth stem also has a kappa at the end of the stem. And of course, you need to learn the stems.